f5 and an eventual e5. That's what I was trying to avoid. And I guess you got to play g5. I mean, you just got to do it and hope that you've made the right determination.
Well, the fact that Sergey is thinking for 3 minutes makes me think that it might have occurred to him, this kind of game changer, if you will, g5 check.
Exactly.
Speaking of game changers, why not take the chance to change the game with rook d1 when that's like the kind of idea that you're looking for? Explain to the audience why, in simple terms, why is it good to trade off rooks as a general heuristic when you have two rooks versus rook and bishop?
The rook and bishop tend to work very, very, very well together, and especially when you have a weakness like a g7 pawn weakness, where the two rooks get tied down. So by taking one of the rooks off the board, you're taking away the rook and bishop's attacking potential.
He's found it!
And
g5 is on the board.
He was wrestling with that move.
Fighting to play the move, and he's played the move. We saw the 30 seconds get re-added, actually, to his clock, but he has found the key move, and this changes the whole face of the game, and Magnus is well aware now, looking at it.
Back.
That move is a shocker for Magnus.
Ooh, and it was essentially the only move. I mean, and
Great
boy,
fight.
that took some great nerve to play that move, because he had been holding the bunker. He'd just been keeping his position intact, and this move basically says, okay, I'm setting up an entirely new fortress. And we have seen en passant, by the way.
They're writing down moves. Are they required to?
Okay, we did get an update from Brand Jurgensen and Chris Bird, and apparently that was partly what the players' meeting was about. They are going to be keeping score even with the delay.
Oh, really? Okay, so that was why we got off to a late start, as the players had a meeting with the arbiters to discuss this very situation that the players now find themselves in.
En passant done, and now...
Or is he waiting for king g7?
He's taking a long time confirming.
Well, he does have a 30-second delay. But
okay.
yeah,
he lost 7 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
He lost 7 seconds.
Mistimed there a little. I think he was trying to do it on the 30 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah, and g5. So these pawns are coming off the board on the king side. Pardon me, king g7, g5 on the board.
There will be a passed e-pawn as king g6 can happen.
G6
he will liquidate.
Feels right. Takes. Right.
Yes, and now the rooks feel a little bit more frisky, as that pawn won't necessarily hold him down if the black rooks can start to challenge that king as well with lots of checks. And that pawn could be blockaded by the king on e6, further by the king on e8. So now the capture on f6, expect king takes f6. That has happened. So as far as you'll get will be the e5 square. Then you're going to have to work. And now I'll make this point as well, Yaz. You talked about trading rooks. As we know, you should trade rooks.
Right.
One of the main reasons as well is bishops only control one color. And so the rook helps to harmonize with the bishop, as the bishop will be anemic on the opposite color. It can only fight on that color. So defense will be easier. By having a rook on the board, you have a chance to break the rooks, break the blockade on any light squares while your bishop is guarding dark squares. You take the rooks off, light square blockades become instantaneous. And that's why you want to keep the rook on the board when you have the bishop.
So, for example, at this position that we have on the board, if black's king goes to the e6 square, and there was no white rook, that king could never be booted out and blockade.
You'd have to find some other way to win the game.
Exactly.
Because you cannot get rid of that king off that square. And so we have the king on the square, the king is on e3. Now
by the way, that's a perfect blockading square for the king.
Yes.
Perfect. Just absolutely perfect. Now, from Magnus's point of view, it's time to look to the other side. Rook check, rook f6. He's going to get nowhere with that.
The engine's thinking this is triple zeros. No way you win anymore.
Really?
Because you can't lift the king, and the rook's about to get counterplay.
I was about to suggest b5 and a6 with the idea of a7, getting that pawn up the board. Oh, then you could sacrifice
opposite color. Yes, wrong color pawn. Wrong color pawn. So if rooks are traded at any moment, and you get your king over to that side, you can always sack for the e-pawn, and that's a draw as well. So this is drawn. This is probably objectively equal. But
after king e6, we have the move rook
h4.
Played, yes. Okay, sorry. Yes, sorry, Maurice.
I think Magnus now is just using clock again. He's been playing positionally this entire endgame. It is Sergey who actually caused the explosion, the dramatic transformation
G5.
of the position with the move g5. And Magnus has been playing control. He's taken over on the clock, and now you see the clock ticking down, and Sergey just needs a move of some kind, as Magnus understands the need to just keep that python-like squeeze on and just don't liquidate the pieces. Don't liquidate. Don't liquidate. Now, Sergey should activate his rooks
The rook
somehow.
on, no,
rook
the
G8,
rook
for
on
example.
F7 is
And he's down to
genius.
12 seconds.
No.
Does he know? Sergey.
10 seconds.
Rook
8,
G8.
and he sees now his clock.
He's played rook F6.
Rook F6 with only 7 seconds. He sucked out a lot of time in that move, yes. 37 seconds.
He sure did. And
Rook F6 played.
Rook F6. I like the move Rook G8 and activating that rook. Why he took so long on that move, I'm not sure. Is it
I like
time?
that move too, though. That's a defensive crouch for him. He's giving nothing to Magnus. There will be no rook A6 check at all.
How about king to D3 to worm our way over to the C4 square? Now that this pawn on E4 is defended, I can run with my king and support the freeing advance B4, B5. No.
Rook H7 played.
Okay, rook F7's an easy one. Okay. Sergey was likely relieved to see the move rook H7. Rook comes back to H5, and I'm assuming Sergey will be true to form and play the move rook F6.
By the way, the Indians are seeing multiple draws in this position, but that's not the point. The
Your clock is ticking.
That 18 seconds
Yeah.
is the whole thing, and he's played king to D7 now.
Wow.
Everything on light squares, getting out of checks, and eyeballing the E-pawn for some future tactics. He will have the chance. And also, his king could go to B5. It's starting to
Right.
look a little bit like that game with Grischuk when he got his
Where he
king
got
over
his
there.
active king over there. Yeah.
Rook on E6, king on C6 is another defensive posture he has to find. And now E5 has been played.
E5. Okay, we're about to see Sergey setting up a different light square blockade with the move rook E6 and with the move king C6. As Maurice is mentioning, that dark square bishop does a great job, but it only attacks dark squares. And again, we're going to be saying this throughout the rest of the broadcast. 13 seconds.
Magnus is waiting for the blunder.
countdown. The
9
countdown.
seconds. He needs a move.
Be clock aware.
Rook E6.
Rook F1.
with
Good
only
move.
5 seconds.
Any move is a good move at this moment.
Now,
Jeez.
it's all about can he induce a blunder? The game
Rook
is equal.
F1.
But can Magnus induce a blunder by keeping
What's
the
purpose?
domination?
What was the purpose of rook F1?
I think he's going to check white out of his mind so he
How
can get
about
the
king D4?
King D4 rook check.
King C4?
Another check.
King D5, and I'll block
Bishop
another
check.
check with the bishop, and I'll start to think about rook H7. Oh my goodness, I
Rook
didn't like
H7,
this
rook,
move.
Rook E7.
I did. Okay, so where's what am I suggesting? After E5, who's to move? Pardon me.
It's white's
it's
move.
white's move now.
Okay.
Magnus-
You suggested
Magnus
King D4.
Okay, let me go King E4 then.
Okay, check.
Check. King D5.
Another check.
Check. I'll drop my bishop back.
He
There
has
it
played-
is.
Played
King
King
E4.
E4. This is the current situation on the board, and I'm making a beeline to D5 so I could set up with rook H7 check. I thought black was just going to put his rook on E6
But
and
what
his
does
king
rook
on
A7
C6.
check do, though? I mean, wait.
With my king on
Yeah,
D5,
trade.
it's huge.
As
Really?
you're talking again, Sergey with still his head in his hands, going under 10 seconds.
Oh, man. Just
7,
make the check already.
6,
Just
5, 4, 3.
King C6. Oh, that looks bad.
That looks bad.
That looks
King C6?
really bad.
That's the blunder Magnus needed.
He was
That
waiting
is the
for-
one he was waiting for.
Rook
A
H6.
terrible move allowing rook H6. That is the move that loses the
Rook
game.
H6, you can't
And
play
he's
King B.
played-
Oh, King B5, there's Rook B6 check, right?
He has fallen apart, and
What
Magnus'
happened?
strategy has paid off. As Sergey now is dead lost.
Magnus can play rook to B6 check, pick off this pawn, and he can also freely charge his e-pawn all the way down the board. And
But
he's played it.
He's played Rook B6 check. King C4 was the idea here. I think he's trying to gain some counterplay by playing.
There's no defending this pawn. It's time just to push the pawn to E6
And that's what he did, play
And Magnus
E6.
understanding it immediately.
and put the pawn on E7 and bring your king right up the board.
This game is
Oh,
lost.
it's a
Amazing.
losing game. And Sergey had the blockade. He just needed to finish it off with rook E6.
And even Magnus there, it looks like he's
Oh.
leaning back in a more confident manner that he has been this whole game as he quickly replies to rook E1 check with King F5.
Very importantly, there's no double rook attacks.
Well, that
That's-
bishop has been the star of the show, yes.
And it's still the star of the show. Ooh.
By the way, that position you set up as with the king on E6, king on D5, bishop on D4,
Yeah.
blocking the pin.
Yes.
Rook D8 exclamation mark. Rook
Oh,
D8.
preparing to move the king
Preparing
with
to
the
move your
jack.
king whenever you move your king, and you don't stabilize the position. So
I
that
think
was
he missed that.
That was drawing without any
What did we
any
see?
effort.
With just 4 seconds left, rook F1 check played
Was
by
pie
Sergey.
played? We're expecting king E5,
King E5 on the board.
and it's it's a zigzag, right? He's zigzagging his king up the board.
He's going to lift the blockade. This is just hopeless now.
Sorry, what am I missing? Rook E1 check. How do I zigzag any further?
Why can't you play king f6?
King, you can, and then I go check again.
And king g6?
And then rook g8, and whoa, row.
He's trying to...
Wait, why didn't we go king g7 instead?
Yes.
Yeah, king g7 better.
Thank you, sorry.
Thank you, Jen.
King g7. Wow, that bishop really is an all-star, isn't it? It's stopping rook g1.
Anchor
checks,
square on c5.
Nice. Nice point. So our current position, Jen, is...
And he has played rook f1 check. Again, staying on those 34 seconds.
King f6.
And king g7 played by Magnus.
And move we...
Pure
King
accuracy, of
g6.
course.
If king g6, that would completely have turned the tables. What
Yes.
I mean, the whole of Norway would have fallen. Whoa. Oh, no.
I mean, I think he's still okay. You could play e7 and rook h6 to block, but it wouldn't...
I'm sorry, I don't see a move for... And he's played rook a8, but now e7, and you got it perfectly contained, because...
And you're sending rook d6 too, right?
Rook d6 to d8, yes. That's a big one, but I'm also threatening to go rook to e6, lure that rook back to the e8
Rook
square.
a6
E1 is in
also
play.
is possible. Rook takes
Rook
a6.
e1 stopping all the
So rook
nonsense.
e1 stopping all that for now. King f7.
And
Now the
again,
king's going to march to the other side.
this is almost a dream come true for white. I mean, this whole zigzagging maneuver, and I mean, I really feel for Sergey right now.
I'll tell you, you have to. You saw Magnus play a really intriguing style of how to win by maintaining the positional pressure. And even though it was objectively drawn, he knew he needed to just keep the pressure up and let the clock do its work. And trying to defend these things, it was just too much.
Yeah.
Just too much.
And rook e4, rook e6 is going to be played, as Yaz
Right.
is pointing out.
Rook e6, and the king is too far away suddenly from the e8 square, so rook e6.
And then you can throw in a couple of spike checks, but we're just going
That's all
to
they
zigzag
are.
our king back to... Oh, I thought you were going to go... Yeah, that works too, sure.
Yeah, exactly. So it's rook
Rook
e6
d6,
is,
rook d8 is another idea instead of rook e6.
I think there's a choice of wins suddenly. And Magnus
Rook
has actually
d6
chosen
being
rook
shown.
d6.
Threat with this big threat of rook d8 on the board.
Painful.
Caller, you asked why Magnus is the best in the world. And look at how he has handled this position ever since the slip-up.
Yeah.
Just like a machine. Just absolute accuracy, move after move after move, confident play. Every move the engine says Magnus plays, every first move. I mean, he's just an amazingly fast mind. And his strategy in this endgame, he didn't see exactly the forced win, but at every moment, he just kept at it until he induced the mistake. And now Sergey has to be totally demoralized. Looking at this position, he's now down 3 whole pawns for the exchange that he's benefited, but it's clear that he's lost now and his position is hopeless.
Indeed, and that rook takes a6 is really kind of an exclam to emphasize White's
And there it is.
dominance.
Magnus Carlsen has become the only winner of this round. We thought it might be 5 draws. Magnus Carlsen, world champion, showing us why he's the #1 player in the world.
What a grind it has been. Oh my goodness, I feel so pain. That was really, really tough.
88 moves, it looks like.
Ooh,
Yeah,
'cause
was
Sergey-
the ground total.
It was right here. Sergey had just played the move. Strangely enough, the move that Sergey had played.